See, it's a sign of how good your security has become that, first of all, attacks have to be selected very, very carefully beforehand.
Mm,
You can't just go around doing whatever the fuck you wanted to do the way it was done before, number
mm,
one. Number two, they're expending, unfortunately, the pundits have become a collateral in this, and this was something we worried about. Kushal, if was it you or somebody else, uh, where I'd said this almost 2 years back, that there is a high probability now that pundits will get the more frustrated they get, the more selective their targeting will become.
mm.
And they are becoming more selective in their targeting, right?
Yeah.
Now, what is the way out of this? Kashmiri pundits can't stop their normal way of life.
Mm,
And you can't just give every pandit a security guard. You can give them guns. The issue is what happens with giving them guns without training.
yes.
Okay. They then end up, uh, the way the system works. They will be accused of massacring people. They will panic, shoot everybody in
Yeah.
self defense. But
Yeah.
you know how the system here is. You don't have clear cut laws like you do in Israel of settlers protecting themselves against Palestinians. And you know how the courts here are.
Mm-hmm.
So you know exactly what will go down that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was the option of raising a local militia, but you know how these fellows got together and saw to it that Salva Judum had to be uh, 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 disintegrated because of some legal loophole that they found.
Mm.
So you can't even create a people's militia.
Yeah.
What is your option out here? I'll accept criticism if you show me what is the option.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, no country in the world can protect against lone wolf attacks like that. And
Yep.
it's not lone wolf, it is planned. But see, you thwart 100 attacks. The terrorist only has to succeed once to make their point.
Yeah.
Okay. You just can't stop it.
And
Unfortunately, there's no way out.
even in the attacks that have happened, let's say in France, that are considered quote unquote lone wolf attacks, many of them are planned online. They're given very clear instructions. Yahan jao, isko maro,
Mhm,
ye karo, ye
mhm.
gaadi uthao. They're given very clear instructions. So udhar bhi, there's a level of planning involved, even though they are quote unquote lone wolf attacks.
Hmm.
No, but Abhijit, what do you make of this? Every time such an attack happens, the response from the state has to be disproportionately high so that they realize that we will be hit harder every single time the state attacks us. Or we,
Agreed. Now, the issue here is, one is you can do collective punishment the way the Israelis do. But the difference there is the people they are collectively punishing are not Israeli citizens.
Mm,
These are Indian citizens.
mm,
You cannot legally carry out collective punishment, just like Israel. If an Israeli Arab did something, you cannot carry out collective punishment. An Israeli Arab's house cannot be demolished for a suicide bombing, whereas a Palestinian's can.
mm.
Because one is the law of occupation, the other is the law of Israel.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't do that here. So, what is a disproportionate response in this case?
That's true because you kill the terrorists who have carried out the attack, but that's not a disproportionate response. That is just a normal response that the
It's not.
security forces will take.
It's
What is a
so.
disproportionate response?
Yeah. What is it? What did you have in mind, Kushal?
well, first of all, find out who was helping the terrorist, even passively,
Hmm.
and maybe make sure that they don't receive any kind of government patronage, government help. If they have any facilities in the state of Jammu and Kashmir,
Mm,
or Union Territory as of
That,
now,
look,
sorry.
that's being done. That's being done. The issue is, uh, what more can you do? For example, I went to the family house of that of the Pulwama bomber
mm,
Hmm.
that set Balakot in motion. Right.
Hmm.
The issue is, you can't cut off their electricity. They're Indian citizens. They have a right to that. Okay. You can't cut off their water. They're Indian citizens. They have a right to it.
mm.
So
Even if they were
What
basically,
found
can
so
complicit.
the state strategy has to calculate certain level of attacks, unfortunately. is the only conclusion. That's what I said, right?
I agree. The
Hmm.
issue is your legal system simply won't allow that, because you essentially have liberal judges run amok, and through the collegium system they perpetuate more liberal judges coming into the system.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we could do is we should never have until Kashmir fixes the system. It should not go back to having representative MLAs. I say this with
Yeah.
full responsibility. They should have the
Look,
governor controlling that state.
there is no need for a union territory to have an assembly, and I have always said this.
Hmm.
I
They
am
should
I
dissolve
You
it.
remember, I have been saying this since 2019, when this thing was when the state was made a union territory, and this thing,
Hmm.
no bloody elections there for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Hmm.
The
Honestly, the state
government
doesn't
went and
deserve it.
They does
Yeah.
not deserve it, but it was the government that went and promised this shit.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
अब बोल देना कि इलेक्शन होगा और करवा देना are two different things. I don't know if they're actually planning to do elections there
They
anytime
should
soon.
not do it. And the
I don't
condition
think
for
they should.
election should be, how the condition for election should be.
हाँ.
Like वो हमेशा बोलते थे ना कि जब तक नॉर्मलाइज नहीं होगा हम इलेक्शन नहीं करेंगे, और
Yeah.
नॉर्मल कभी होने नहीं वाला, हम इलेक्शन ही नहीं करेंगे कभी.
Huh.
But what do you even see as normalcy in Jammu and Kashmir for the both of you? What is normalcy in Jammu Kashmir? Like
Normalcy is
आज
when
की
I
जो
lived
situation
in
है.
Normalcy is what I see when I lived in Srinagar. Okay, which is, I lived on my house on Munawar Rink Road. I studied in a school called Tyndale Bisco, which was walking distance. There were 6 or 7 Hindu Pandit houses on the way where I used to stop and eat for snacks left, right, and center. I used to walk all alone without any security. There was no security outside my house. And we could go about our lives in a normal way.
But is that your
For me,
personal
that's
experience or
normality.
everybody's in Jammu and Kashmir at that point?
That was what Kashmir was like before 89.
Okay.
I lived there, remember?
Hmm.
6 of my classmates ended up being terrorists.
Oh shit.
But yeah, and got killed. 4 of them ended up being
चलो भला
cops,
है.
one of whom got killed
अच्छा.
by
Shit.
terrorists. And the other 3 do a really good job killing other terrorists.
Nice. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
But do you think that level of normalcy can return without any, and this is a controversial topic, people get very upset about it, but without any kind of demographic rebalancing, is that kind of normalcy even possible in
Yeah,
Kashmir?
here's my counter to that. Like, what are you gonna do? Just send people like lambs to the slaughter in that state? How?
No. So, look, it's normalization isn't an easy process, but one step to normalization is completely defang the politics and the conflict economy out there. It is being defanged slowly. The problem is it is not being defanged enough, and the problem is when you make that sort of deconflicting the economy a long drawn out process, by the time you get to the lower rungs, the upper rungs have already found alternate ways of income.
Hmm.
I have
It's
two
like,
things in my mind. So I again want to run this through both of you. Here's my suggestion number one. The biggest problem in few states in India is property rights. Access to ownership of property in Himachal, in Kashmir, for
see,
example, is
Himachal,
restricted.
Kushal, Himachal is never going to be a problem for us in terms of this thing.
सुन तो
But in
लेना.
Kashmir, do you remember, this government was the one. We went on telling them, do not put in this property protection. They insisted on property protection.
So
Hmm.
that's what point number one. If property, see, how do you make situation normal? It is usually through the flow of capital. When the flow of capital comes, it increases the cost of what do you say, messing the flow up, because there are too many stakeholders. When you have economic normalcy, the stakes of the local population who are also as invested in the
Hmm.
economy, they are the most invested in the economy. So the actual job of the state is, let's say tourism is one of them, right? That's not good enough. You should have ways where other people in India can own property in Kashmir, even if they have it as a holiday home. They don't have to stay there all the time, but that's a proper business, right? Then you can have Airbnbs, etc., etc.
No, no, no. I'll tell you why. Because if you go there and invest right now, the construction business out there is the biggest hawala racket for funding terrorism out there. What you need is a settler movement. साले शाम के रिश्तेदार जो बिहार से हैं सबको बंदूक हाथ में दो and have a full demographic change out there.
वही तो मैं कह रहा हूँ.
Do in Kashmir what China does in Tibet.
अरे मगर कैसे, क्या मतलब? या लिटरली यू आर सेइंग यू सेंड पीपल एज लैम्स फॉर द स्लॉटर, लाइक बंदूक दे दो. क्या
No,
बंदूक कौन से
किसने
बिहारी को
बोला?
दे दो?
किसने? No, you create a new economy. You create a whole
What?
new economy.
So
So
the
for
government
example,
of India is going
construction.
to train
So
Biharis with weaponry and then send them to Kashmir. I
no,
mean,
बेटा
what are you
बिहारीज
talking
को
about?
वेपन भी सिखा दी ना.
you don't have to
खेल
train
ही
them
खत्म.
with weaponry.
खेल ही
You
खत्म
give
उधर.
them weaponry. What you do is you start up settler colonies. You start up settler colonies that are fenced, high security colonies that end up changing the demographic, that create local economies where all the construction will only happen out there. Now, one of the smart
Yes.
ways of breaking the construction industry is you ban all construction in Kashmir except in settler colonies.
Yes.
And all the construction material comes from the rest of India or settler owned businesses in Kashmir.
Yeah.
Okay. So you hit that. The
So you have
second big
to.
route of Hawala, the second
Go
big
ahead.
route of Hawala is going to study medicine in Bangladesh. So if you open any Kashmiri edition of a newspaper, you'll see MBBS in Bangladesh, MBBS in Bangladesh. Just say you will not recognize a Bangladeshi MBBS in India. And see, people who do MBBS in Ukraine, they have to do a bridging exam wherein they qualify under the Indian medical this thing.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
just
they
say
do.
we're just not going to accept the Bangladeshi MBBS in India. फिर क्या
Yeah.
करोगे? See, there have always been ways of breaking.
इधर कादियान भी साला बिहारी को मत भेजो, हरियाणवी को भेजो. अरे दोनों को भेजो ना.
हाँ?
ऐसा क्या है? सबको भेजो. इसकी आँख.
देख भाई, all these
एक काम
hot
करना
ja-
अभिजीत, तेरे
all
भाइयों को
these
भेज दे,
hot
तमिलियंस को
Jat
भेज
and
दे.
Gujar boys, all these hot
Tamilians
Jat
को.
Gujar boys,
हाँ.
they should all go
जाट
to
गुज्जर
Kashmir.
वाले को भेजो और आरा छपड़ा वाले को भेजो. आरा छपड़ा वाला सबसे ज्यादा गंद मचाएगा उधर जाके. मैं
नहीं
बता
नहीं,
रहा हूँ.
कश्मीर में तो तमिलनाडु से ही जाएंगे लोग. तमिलियंस को भेजो.
और श्याम शर्मा को, अरे वो तो डोसा इडली बनाएंगे, वो कुछ नहीं करेंगे. Tamil has its own separatism problem. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
हाँ, तो एक दूसरे को मिलेगा ना,
Yes.
प्यार
एक
बढ़ेगा लोगों
सेपरेटिस्ट
का.
दूसरे सेपरेटिस्ट को काटेगा. जहर को जहर से काटो बेसिकली.
So my people killed off 2 presidents of Sri Lanka. They killed off a former prime minister of India. My people killed off several foreign ministers of Sri Lanka also.
Yeah.
My
So
people
that's why
have the
send them
highest
to
number.
Kashmir.
My people have the highest record of killing heads of state and government in the whole world.
Yeah. Send them there. पूरा
I guess we have the
separatist
candidate.
ecosystem कोई साफ करके आ जाएंगे वापस.
I guess we have the candidate.
Yeah, I guess we have the candidate. It's not Bihar. It's not
अरे
Haryana.
देखो,
It's not Gujars. It's Tamils.
किसी ने मेरा वीडियो Pornhub पे देखा, मैं जरूर मेरे OnlyFans को सब्सक्राइब करना.
What? You know, I feel like that is the most some kind of demographic rebalancing through creating these colonies. जहां पर तुम कह रहे हो कि नई कंस्ट्रक्शन हो गई, you create a construction economy over there. वहां पर जाके लोगों को resettle कर सकते हो, and because it's a finite area, it's easier to provide security to them rather than provide security to Kashmiri Hindus that are spread across the region.
And see, what happens is when you create a township, you create a whole economies of scale around it. You create vendors, ATMs, banks, etc. just for that. Okay, and then it's called an ink blot strategy. See, when you drop a ink, it slowly spreads on the paper.
Yeah.
And then you keep adding drops of ink to it till it spreads across the entire thing. So there is actually a lot of literature about this. The problem is the state's handling of the human aspect of this has been just as incompetent as their handling of the farmers' protests and the Shaheen Bagh Jutiyas.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they're always waiting for shit to hit the fan, because when shit hits the fan, it's much more useful politically than to nip it in the bud. Because if you nip it in the bud, then you
No,
can
but
try and take credit for it.
how does shit hitting the fan help BJP politically
Well,
in Kashmir?
because देखो कि अभी भी कितना terrorism हो रहा है वहां पर, and we are the only ones that are going to keep you safe. Keep voting for us because we are the only ones that are going to keep
No,
you
but
safe.
the fact is that they did remove Article 370. How can you deny that?
No, I'm not denying that at all. But I'm saying ki they do wait for shit to hit the fan. Like if you look at the farmers' protests, they waited. Shit hit the fan on 26th of January. Waited. Finally, COVID ended it. They didn't end it, right?
Yeah, they didn't
That's
end
what I'm
it.
saying.
Apparently, COVID is more pro-India than the government of India. So
Well,
effectively, China is
that
more
is an
pro-India than.
exaggeration.
I
That
know
is
it is,
It's
but
the truth.
eventually, अगर देखोगे तो it
That's
ended
not the
because
truth.
of
There is not even a single government on planet Earth that must have gotten 100 out of 100 things right. It's
yeah.
like the Israeli government gets
अबे
everything right, or
देख,
what?
तेरा प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो है
अबे वो तेरा
जस्टिन
भी है उल्लू
ट्रूडो,
के पट्टे,
तेरा प्राइम
वो
मिनिस्टर
साले
तेरा भी है.
वो मेरा जस्टिन
तेरा
ट्रूडो मेरा
प्राइम
प्राइम मिनिस्टर
मिनिस्टर
नहीं है लवड़े, वो तेरा प्राइम मिनिस्टर है जस्टिन
अच्छा
ट्रूडो.
मेरा
मेरा नहीं
पासपोर्ट
है
अभी भी इंडियन है, मैं वोट करता हूँ
नहीं
नरेंद्र
ये
मोदी को.
तमिलनाडु का पासपोर्ट लेके
नहीं
आता
नहीं
है ना
नहीं,
इसलिए
ये साला गांडू कनेडियन है, इसका प्राइम मिनिस्टर जस्टिन ट्रूडो है.
अच्छा
और
कैनेडियन
तेरा
अच्छा
जस्टिन
अच्छा
ट्रूडो, द वन ट्रू लव ऑफ योर लाइफ जस्टिन ट्रूडो,
I
how
hate it so
effectively
much.
how effectively did he break the truckers' bloody backs?
yeah
And Justin Trudeau totally gives me gay vibes. तो तुम्हारा 56 इंच का सरकार एक होमो से भी नालायक निकला इन डीलिंग विद द सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशन.
भगवान people kind, yeah, that's right.
Well,
People
I will
kind.
ये
see
देखो,
if जस्टिन
बहुत
ट्रूडो की लाइफ में कुबेकवास की सेपरेटिस्ट मूवमेंट आती है, फिर देखते हैं क्या करता है.
Yeah.
देखो इसमें बहुत सुंदर एक कमेंट आया है महिंद्रा से. आफ्टर इडली अय्यर फ्रिस्की.
After Italy. I want to ask the both of you about this Kashmir topic before we move on. Is in your opinion, if let's say we believe that this kind of resettlement in certain colonies to provide protection, create a parallel economy for Kashmiri Hindus is a viable solution to create some kind of demographic rebalancing and
Sham,
slowly destroy.
currently Kashmir में Hindus non-Muslims are 1.5% of the population.
I agree, yeah.
Right? For anything to have scalability in terms of economics, what is the population number?
Won't you say around at least 35%?
So how much time will it take to make them reach 35%?
15
My
years?
question, how can it happen?
15-20 years में कर सकते हो यार.
See,
अगर
my
आप resettlement करना शुरू
honest
करो तो
answer,
15-20 साल में कर सकते हो.
there is only one way to do this, which is through the might of the state, where the state has to
Yeah.
cross every possible boundary, which is what I was saying. That the
Basically,
state, if needed, हाँ तुमने सपोर्ट किया टेररिस्ट को, तुमको नहीं मिलेंगी चीजें. क्यों
Yes.
इंडियन स्टेट को जब उनको 4G नहीं देना था, 3G नहीं देना था, तो नहीं दे रही थी ना इतने टाइम तक. 2G में रुला रहे थे उनको बैठ के इंटरनेट में. जब इंडियन स्टेट
Yeah.
को करना था, उनको रुलाना था, कितने टाइम तक कश्मीर में सिर्फ 2G था? कितने टाइम तक वो कितना रोते थे लोग, नहीं किया. तो क्यों नहीं कर सकती इंडियन स्टेट? जो इंडिया ये बोल रहा है बिजली नहीं काट सकते, अरे साला उनका 4G काट दिया इंडियन स्टेट ने.
Yeah. Yeah, look,
मेरा
Mahendra
तो
Singh
5G
sent
आ गया है.
Biharis and Iyyers to repopulate. Yes, we will create a super race. Bihari Iyer mix.
Bihari Iyer mix. Best.
It will be a super people. That's
Next
true.
we will have idlis smeared with mustard oil.
Yeah. अच्छा, यूपी बिहार वाले को भेजो, 5 साल में 35% हो जाएगा.
बिल्कुल, अरे बिल्कुल.
देखो ये
See,
सब बातें.
Jokes aside, okay, 1 second. All these Bihari jokes aside, you understand
I know.
every fucking empire and everything you know today as Indian history came out of Bihar pretty much.
Yeah.
The Guptas, the Mauryas, your Buddhism, everything comes out of Bihar.
By the way, all your heterodox schools also are from Bihar, by and large.
हाँ.
अरे गुरु गोबिंद सिंह born and raised.
To be Bihari is to be an Indian. To be an Indian is to be a Bihari. Understand
Yeah.
this.
अगला देखना वहीं से आएगा. The next when India Vishwa Guru की तरफ बढ़ेगा, तो that area has to develop again. That is the only way to go towards Vishwa Guruhood, in my opinion. But yeah, do you think that it's even a remote possibility, a system like that in Kashmir? I mean, this government has surprised us with a lot of things in the past, but do you think such a system could even be a remote possibility?
See, the thing is, they're a lot like Rahul Gandhi in that sense. They've got their advisors and they will only listen to them. They will not listen to anything from the outside. Okay. And the thing is, at least unlike Rahul Gandhi's advisors who are all dunces,
Yeah.
these advisors have a brain in certain things. They just can't respond to situations as fast as we'd like them to. They've got a set template और उसी template पे चलेंगे. You know, so it's like A plus B equals C. तुमको equation दिया गया है.
Yeah.
Now you're told to do A plus B plus C. You don't know how it fits into the template.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the problem.
Yeah.
This is the problem of having CBSE graduate babus.
I think the way Kashmir has become might sound very harsh, what I'm saying, because that society, the overall structure of that society has gone bonkers. And I say this with full responsibility, because any society that ethnic cleanses its entire minority has something really off in their head. You cannot say anything else other than that. There are no Hindus there. Any society that ethnically cleanses their Hindus has something off their head. And I would definitely be very, reluctant in just sending Hindus willy-nilly. It has to be strategized and done properly. नहीं तो और लोगों को मरवाने का मुझे कोई शौक नहीं है.
बस ऐसे भेजने का कोई मतलब नहीं बनता. कि जाओ रहना शुरू कर दो का कोई मतलब नहीं बनता. आप उनको ऑनक्लेव्स में प्रोटेक्ट करके रखो, वरना जाके रहना
इससे
शुरू
अच्छा
कर
तो
दो.
एक काम करो, इंडियन स्टेट को सारे आर्मी के हेडक्वार्टर्स उधर बना देने चाहिए, और जितने भी आर्मी वाले लोग हैं उनको ही उधर रहने को बोलो. पूरी स्टेट को ही आर्म फोर्सेस से ऑक्यूपाई कर दो.
रिटायर करके
हर
वहीं
आदमी
रहना
के
शुरू कर
बंदूक
दो.
होगी. सारे आर्मी के लोग है ना जो एक्टिव ड्यूटी पे होते हैं और बाद में ये कर रहे हैं, उनको रख दो उधर. उनके पास बंदूक, जो सारी दुनिया के बम रख दो उनके साथ, और उनको बोलो ठोको इनको बैठ के, अगर कुछ करेगा तो.
I feel like that's an even easier solution. Yeah.
I have a fantastic, easy solution for this. We should send Harry and Meghan to Kashmir.